Hello and welcome back to TechEU To The Point, our video series where we interview some of Europe's leading tech entrepreneurs, executives, and investors. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Alex Zinder. He is the head of enterprise at a company called Ledger. They are a Paris, France-based provider of crypto wallets. At least that's what I know about Ledger. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Robin.
You're calling in from vacation, no less. What is that
I
all about?
am. Yeah. Well, it's a tradition in France, or so I'm told, to take a couple of weeks off in August. So I'm trying to blend in with my French coworkers and be a part of that experience.
Very cool. So, Alex, maybe before we start talking about your work, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been in traditional finance for quite some time. I'm a technologist from the very beginning. I grew up in the web, in the web bubble in the late '90s and early 2000s. Those were my first job experiences as a web-based engineer. Not too far after that, I joined NASDAQ. The big exchange in the US in Times Square, and I was responsible for building trading platforms for them for quite some times. And in my later stages at NASDAQ, I was responsible for emerging technologies. And during that time, obviously, this was early 2000 teens, so 2012, 2015, I got a lot of exposure to distributed platforms, DLT, crypto. And finally, with Ledger, I decided to take the plunge and then go directly into crypto. And I spent enough time trying to get large institutional players into the space and to really understand the technology and the new principles. But I decided that it was time to explore from a crypto native perspective.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about Ledger first and foremost. The company's been around for a while, I think since 2014 when it was founded. Mostly known, I guess, for the hardware crypto wallets that it provides and sells.
Yeah, this little guy, right?
Sells quite a lot of them, I think, no?
Yeah, it's been hugely popular. The adoption is there, the product market fit is there, and the problem that we solve for is a real problem, as we continue to see over and over again with these security compromises that keep making news. The challenge that Ledger was in place to fundamentally solve for was that with crypto, there is a certain layer of security that is required to do things safely. And there is a certain level of an investment from an individual perspective to own your own crypto, right? We say not your keys, not your crypto. So the self-sovereignty and self-custody aspect of it does require some level of work from the individual, and that needs to be done securely with a secure device. The early hypothesis was that our current devices that we're used to for Web 2, our laptop, our browser, our phones, were not secure enough, did not have the right security posture or capabilities to support the movement of value, which we actually see in Web 3. So we're transitioning from sharing information on Web 2 to actually sharing value with Web 3. And value requires a higher level of security. So, Ledger very early on in the evolution of crypto came up with this secure hardware device. It has a couple very straightforward but very critical principles. One is it protects your keys. And it signs the transactions directly on the device. So it makes sure that your keys do not travel over the internet where they're insecure and can be compromised and can be taken advantage of. Another very important principle is what you see is what you sign. There's a screen on the device that lets you as an individual, as a user, read on a secure device exactly what it is that you're signing, what is in the transaction. And that really eliminates or minimizes any possibility of a man-in-the-middle attack or other social engineering functions that we see quite a lot of. And those have really been the primary causes for a lot of the hacks that have been happening and making the news recently. Ledger really solves for those. So hence the success. We sold over 5 million of those devices globally so far. And the hardware aspect continues to do really well.
Fantastic. Have they ever been hacked?
No. The Nano has never been hacked. So it's proven secure with a perfect track record so far.
Great to hear.
We're constantly investing in security. Where it's kind of it's easy to think that we came up with a device and then it's been secure ever since. But as you can imagine, crypto is evolving extremely quickly. There's new blockchains, new protocols, new use cases with NFTs and other expansions with DeFi. So we're constantly hard at work trying to analyze the new attack vectors, to advance the device, to advance the user experience in the screens, to maximize adoption. So it's an ongoing thing, and we can continue to invest very heavily into security with our Donjon in Paris, who are some of the best crypto security experts in the space.
That is very, very nice to know. Which brings you to your role. You're the head of enterprise. I have to be very honest with you, Alex. I didn't even know Ledger had an enterprise offering.
Well, I appreciate your honesty. It's something that we get quite a bit. We actually laugh internally. We're very blunt about this, but we kind of consider ourselves the best kept secret at Ledger. And there is a reason for this. We've been very much focused again on security, and when you're securing significant amounts of assets, you tend to not disclose your customers. You tend to not to talk about your security profile. You focus on the things that you're best at. But to kind of outline it very simply, right? This device was created for an individual, for an end user. It's a retail-based business where we sell hardware. But the challenges with crypto are not just retail-based, right? It's not just for an individual. So, Robin, for example, if you started to invest relatively heavy in crypto in the early days, and made some really smart decisions and smart choices, and found yourself where you have a couple million in crypto assets across the different blockchains in different protocols, and we have many people that now have 5, 10, 20 nanos that they use for different use cases. They keep them separated. They keep all that stuff systematically managed because they're serious about their crypto assets. But that's not, that solution doesn't scale extremely well. Right. So the challenge that we solve for at Ledger Enterprise is the same core security premise. We provide self-custody. We provide secured hardware devices, but we also provide a fully evolved and developed SaaS platform. So a software platform that you can access through your browser that helps with user management, governance, processes, workflows, a variety of different use cases, from building and creation of NFTs to interacting with DeFi, interacting with smart contracts, to fundamentally protecting the send and receive functions of your wallets for crypto. And we, those value-added services make it manageable for large organizations to manage operations around crypto assets and do that securely and at scale. And that's really the kind of the very simple overview. We've taken a security solution that is proven and works really well for individuals, and we've created secure governance and workflows to make that solution scalable for large institutions and much bigger use cases. Ledger Enterprise has been in the business now for about 4 years. So we are well known in the industry. We've been focusing on the crypto native space because that's where the assets have really been so far. We've custody upwards of 10 billion in assets for our customers, in the tens of billions. And our turnover on an annualized basis is over 100 billion. So it's a significant amount of value that's being moved using the platform. And we've never been compromised as well. And the assets on our platform have never been mismanaged. So the governance and the operational workflows are sound and secure.
Those are some really, really big numbers. Can you name some of your customers?
Sure. We have a couple of customers publicly that have been, that we work with very closely. Crypto.com is one of our largest customers. They're a major, well-known exchange. We've been working with them for quite some time. In fact, they were one of the clients that we're able to work with to get them one of the largest insurance policies in crypto. That's another really strong feature of the platform that we offer. We're completely SOC compliant, and we've gone through all the diligence required for large organizations to be able to provide guarantees to the platform itself that the value that they manage with our platform is actually secure. And this allows them to take out insurance policies and to do other activities and have their own larger customers, right? So Crypto.com, obviously an important client of ours with the largest crypto insurance policy currently in existence. We have another client, which was a joint venture with us, called Kamino. Kamino is an interesting one because they are a custodian. So they leverage our platform to offer custodial services to their own B2B customers. and they have a very large customer base of well-known crypto-specific institutions. And we actually offer white labeling services. So when their clients log in, they see Komainu branding, but they're actually using our tech underneath the covers. And that's an important distinction for us to make. We view ourselves at Ledger Enterprise, we view ourselves as a technology and a security vendor. We're not interested in entering into the financial services ecosystem. We do not want to be a regulated entity. We want to provide best of breed tech to empower other organizations and other enterprises to be successful in crypto.
So from what I'm hearing, that means that the platform offering, basically offering white label tech or maybe even licensing tech down the line, will be a substantial part of that business down the line, right? Or is it the idea to go direct to customers still there?
Well, no. I mean, direct to customers doesn't go away for Ledger, right? We still, we're going to continue to increase the security for the overall ecosystem. The interesting thing to capture here is the real opportunity is it's on both sides of the equation, right? Like we have the retail audience on one side, and they need to be secure, they need to be protected, they need to be in a position to be able to do self-custody and consume a lot of the value that is being offered into the crypto, into the Web3 world. They want to be able to manage their NFTs. They want to be able to interact with DeFi, generate yield. They want to hold long positions in crypto because they think it's a great investment. So there's a wide range of use cases, and we need to empower the retail audience to manage that safely and securely. And on the other side of this is the value creation aspect. And that's where really Ledger Enterprise comes in. And there, what we're working on doing is empowering financial organizations, crypto native players, exchanges, like I mentioned, NFT creators. We're working a lot with different NFT artists and with major brands to make sure that they can create a secure and safe experience for their users of NFTs and build their strategy as to how they enter Web3 and how they scale. In Web3, it's a very different scalability model there. And if we do both of those things well, right, if we do both of those things with security at the core, with strong technology and with governance, what we're fundamentally doing is generally increasing and growing the ecosystem as a whole, right? Because what Ledger really does is, the blockchain itself is the delivery mechanism, right? So all the interactions, all the transactions that are created through Web3, they all reside on a variety of different blockchains, Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, others. And there's been a tremendous amount of growth and variability and diversity in how these use cases have been evolving. And what Ledger does is on both sides, on the creator side and on the consumer side, on the retail side, we want to make sure that these interactions are done securely, well protected, and that the initiators of those interactions can actually see and know exactly what they're doing on the blockchain. Because the challenge with crypto and with blockchains, as you can imagine, is once you publish that interaction, once it's recorded, once it's been accepted by the network, there's no reversing it, there's no erasing it, you can't go back, right? There's no legal actions that you can take if this wasn't the right transaction. So you need to make sure that what you're signing and what you're publishing to these networks is actually what you intended to do. And that's fundamentally the level of service that we provide, both on the creator side with organizations, businesses, financial institutions, and on the consumer side on the retail space with secure hardware wallets and self-custody.
Great. Well, that's very insightful. The $1 million question: how has the crypto winter affected operations within the company? Because I can't imagine that it hasn't affected it in some way.
That's a great question. So we've seen early on in the crypto winter, we've seen a little bit of a drop off in activity, right? In general activity, which is unfortunate, and I think it impacted everybody in the ecosystem. But for Ledger, it actually it's been a very not a positive experience, but we have not had any real impact to our business. In fact, what it really caused some individuals to realize with some companies filing for bankruptcy, right, and some of the additional hacks coming out with Solana and other networks, is it kind of continued to reinforce the realization that if you want to participate in the crypto ecosystem, either as an individual or as an organization, you shouldn't entrust the custody, the ownership aspect of your assets to a third-party organization, right? And the reason for that is that, one, we're still relatively early stage in crypto compared to traditional finance, right? So with a bank, right, if something happens to your money, if a bank mishandles it, right, or you send the wrong transaction, you're actually insured by the government, right? And there's multiple controls and practices in place that make sure that your money and your assets in the traditional financial ecosystem are safe. All these transactions are reversible. Obviously, that costs you. It costs you money, it costs you flexibility, it costs you, global reach and your own freedoms in some ways. So you can't just do anything with your own money. I know this personally. I moved from the US to Switzerland first, and then from Switzerland to France. It was quite an experience managing my bank accounts and the flow of assets as a result of me just kind of moving myself and my family around the world a bit. So it does come with protections, traditional finance, but it also comes with a certain set of constraints and imposes on some of the freedoms that you should have as an individual. With crypto, I can take this with me anywhere, right? It's worth the same no matter where I'm sitting, right? As long as I can plug it into a computer and connect to the internet, I can control my assets. I have full flexibility in what I want to do, but it comes at a cost. If I do something wrong, there's no bank there. There's no legal framework there to say, well, Alex didn't mean to do this. We need to return him his money, right? So the flexibility and the ease of engagement and the ease of use with crypto does come at a certain cost. What we've seen is people are starting to gain that as a realization that you can't really outsource that capability to third parties because the legal frameworks and other models don't exist quite yet, that if that entity goes out of business or mismanages your assets, right, then you're in a situation where it's very probable that you will simply lose those assets. And that's a well-known fact for crypto native players. But as the ecosystem has grown, as the adoption has grown, not everybody that's in crypto today has that realization embedded in their kind of knowledge base. So for us, it's a very important one. We continue to stand behind self-custody. We continue to educate. We've launched several new educational programs for our retail audiences and for our enterprise audiences to basically say, look, we can teach you how to do it. It's not extremely difficult. We can give you the tools. We can give you the capabilities. We can provide the security. But you need to make the investment. You need to learn how to manage your assets properly. And you need to take that ownership. In the NFT space, every time I talk to a major brand, because the inclination is like, who can we hire, right, to help us do this end to end? And I always say, look, you can outsource the education, you can outsource the training, you can outsource the operations even, you can outsource the technology, but you should not outsource ownership, right? Because that ownership is directly linked to your brand. If you're launching an NFT project and you're deploying those NFTs to your community and you do that insecurely, that is your brand reputation that's on the line, right? Because that community isn't going to care which consultants or what third party, which vendor executed your strategy for you and did so badly. They're going to care that I interacted with my favorite brand. I received some value as a result of that interaction. And now that value is gone because somebody mismanaged it. I'm going to go knock on the door of the brand, right? So that's a very important concept for creators to also understand, is that, there's certain things you can't outsource in this space, but security, smart contract ownership, and self-custody are important criteria for you to be able to manage as an organization.
No, I'm very happy you brought up trust and reputation and brand because that's something that the ecosystem has been talking a lot about in recent months. There's some really, really high-profile hacks, as you pointed out already. You've alluded to this. There's a number of companies that were really big in this space that have had to deal with hacks as well. They would also say they've invested heavily in security and trust and reputation, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee 100% that they will remain safe. So how confident are you in saying that Ledger will always be sort of uncompromisable?
Well, I think, without having a certain level of arrogance associated with it, we are very confident with our solution for one very simple differentiator, which I think doesn't apply to a lot of the players where we've seen these issues happen in the recent past. We have the hardware. right? So what Ledger did, which was fundamentally different from any other solution that's on the market today, is invest in the hardware, which is as close to the endpoint as you can possibly have. So we talk about this as security at the edges, right? And security at scale. And it's at the edges because it's in your hand, right? It's not on your computer. It's not on a OS that somebody else built and delivered for you. It doesn't run on a browser that somebody else created, which is a piece of software. So all of these multiple layers that give you ease of use as a user with your phone, with your laptop, those are all attack vectors, right? And the more ease of use layers you have in your experience, the more attack vectors an attacker will have to be able to compromise that experience and take advantage of your assets. So what Ledger did was we did the hard thing first. We reduced all of those layers to a very single point of failure, which is the hardware device itself. We know that this is secure. And by allowing an individual, a user, to actually confirm the transaction directly on the screen, and we do the same thing for both retail and enterprise customers. The enterprise device has a slightly larger screen. It's about the size of your iPhone, so you can have more complex transactions. But by putting that ownership and putting that onus on the user itself and having that validation, you take a lot of the attack vectors completely out of the picture. Right. So you no longer have man-in-the-middle attacks that are possible, because unless somebody is able to compromise the device itself, the user always has that last confirmation, irrelevant of what the website or their phone is showing them. Right. And it takes away a lot of the social engineering aspects as well, because you have that point of a connection. Like, I'm pushing this button to sign my transaction. This is the transaction that I'm signing. So it doesn't matter what somebody else is telling me. Right. It kind of brings that synthesis of, this is what I'm signing. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing it on a secure device. And then from there, you can go to your browser. There's different visualizations, management tools, but the fundamental process of signing a transaction and being able to know exactly what you're signing, that is new. And because we have that, and because we've invested in the core hardware, in the firmware layer, which we build and develop ourselves, and in a software platform that starts to scale that capability to a wide range of different use cases, we have a very high degree of confidence that the Ledger solution is actually differentiatingly secure.
Great, that makes a lot of sense to me. You talked earlier about Ledger Enterprise sort of being sort of a best kept secret within within the industry. How big of a business is it within the Ledger company, proportionate in sales, but also maybe the workforce? And how do you expect it to grow in the next few years?
Yeah, we're continuing to invest there, and we'll continue to invest there. We think it's a highly emerging space, and frankly, for us, it's a two-sided equation, right? So for the adoption of the crypto ecosystem to increase, right, to a wider audience, right, we need to make sure that more of the world is involved in crypto and that they're unlocking their financial freedoms using these new protocols and these new capabilities, because that grows our audience, right? More people will buy hardware devices, more people will interact with Ledger, and more people will be part of the crypto world, which is exactly what we're driving for. But to do that, we need to make sure that we also empower the traditional financial institutions, the major brands, the new creators, the creators of DeFi, to be able to bring more value onto these networks and make more value easily and clearly accessible to those new audiences of users that are getting their feet wet in the crypto ecosystem, right? So for us, it's really a combination of those two things that helps us grow the crypto experience and the crypto ecosystem and the crypto user base overall, and both are critical, right? So if we see people mismanaging and mishandling DeFi, and we see more hacks and crypto starts to get negative press around these capabilities, right, that directly impacts adoption of users globally. So that will directly impact our retail business as well. So I think it's a two-sided problem for us. We're working on both. So for us, that single tide raises all boats. And we're continuing and will continue to invest very heavily in making sure that institutions, brands, crypto native players have the right technology in place to securely support their audiences and grow their audiences and communities, so we get more mass adoption into the crypto ecosystem overall. As far as part of the business, it's a significant part of the business. We currently have around 200 employees dedicated to Ledger Enterprise. We're continuing to scale that. A majority of that is in R&D. As I mentioned before, we consider ourselves a technology company, and very much so also on the enterprise side. We have a very strong security team specifically dedicated to our secure firmware capability, and then a very strong engineering team and software to make sure we support the growth and the different use cases. We support our blockchain adoption strategy. We've introduced staking capabilities this year to support proof of stake networks. We're very, very strong believers in proof of stake and how that positively impacts, environmental concerns and other aspects for scalability factors. So we think proof of stake is really here to stay, and we're working with a lot of the networks to support staking capabilities. And we're now fully supportive of DeFi and the flexibility of different DeFi protocols. So continuing to grow that list of capabilities and expand our list of users on the enterprise side of the platform.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing these insights, Alex. We're going to wrap it up. Before we do, where can people go online to find out more about Ledger and yourself?
Absolutely. So please look us up on Twitter, on LinkedIn, online. It's ledgerenterprise.com. It's ledger.enterprise.com.
Enterprise.ledger.com, I think.
Enterprise.ledger.com. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yes, online it's enterprise.ledger.com, where you can find all the information around the set of products and services that we offer. And please simply visit us on ledger.com. There's a ton of educational materials. We have video series on YouTube, and we'll continue to invest in the educational aspect.
Fantastic. Alex, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck at Ledger.
Thank you, Robin. That was a pleasure.